If you're looking for that perfect player on FM console, then today's part of the guide is going to help you with the buying, scouting, and selling of players in FM23. You'll do. Right, the next section, recruitment. Now, this is where we're going to want to go to sign players and sell players, to find new players, to scout out players. All of that happens in here. So we can come in and we can see now in this version of the game, in the console version, you'll see quite a lot of this is handled for you.
It's easy, right?
The scouting responsibility, you can either set that or you can take that on yourself. You can set the recruitment focuses as well. At the minute, because I've set it to the chief scout, he is sorting out. But if you want to have a play around with that, I would recommend switching it to yourself and you can have a look and see what you can set those recruitment focuses to. You can also see here the transfer budget and wage budget that you have. You see Manchester City actually have quite a lot of money, 95 million, and they have quite a bit of wage budget available as well.
Break out the red panties. We're rich, baby.
If you click on that little button, you can actually ask the board to adjust it. So you can use the right stick to put more money into the wages or more money into the transfer budget. But remember, if you move it, then you'll have less to spend in the other parts. So let's say I want to move up to 120 million in the transfer budget. That's still going to leave me about 100k a week to spend on the wages. It would probably get me someone quite nice. So maybe we go for Victor Osman right here. He's going to cost us maybe 80 million. But these are suggestions down here from the scouts. So if we go along on here, we will also see the 30 in progress. These are the ones that are currently being scouted by our scouts based on the recruitment focuses that we have. Currently there's only one, which is just a recommendation for all positions, but you can ask for something more specific. If I take charge, for example, and then we set here, we can create a recruitment focus. Let's say we want a right midfielder. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here, we're going to set the details. Let's see, what do we want? We're going to turn off any position. We want a right midfielder. Do we want it one-off or ongoing? Maybe a one-off, and we want them to be a certain level and ability. So we're going to look for a transfer, and we're going to set that minimum ability to maybe a 4-star player for our team, and a minimum potential ability, maybe a 4.5 star. Maybe we're looking for quite a young player, so someone perhaps under the age of 27. Probably it's a good scope for Manchester City. We can go across the top here. We can go across to the scope. We can add a certain scope. So maybe we only want to search in a certain continent. Maybe we want a South American player. We can do that. And just on the final tab as well, you can just add any other little bits that you want. Maybe the height or the age or the play-in time. Any of the other attributes that you might want are all here in this little final section of more. If there's something in particular you're looking for, we'll just press Y to confirm that, and it's going to add a second recruitment focus now. So we're looking at the first one. We can use the right stick here. We can just move along to view the second one. But there's the first one. There's the second one. You can see at the minute they haven't found anyone, but as time goes on, they'll start to find some players. Maybe they won't, because I've set quite strict rules, but they should start to find some players and chuck them into the recommendations here. So these are the ones that the scouts have already found and recommended. You can see they've all got an A rating, or an A+ rating in the case of Osman on the right hand side, but we can start to look for players ourselves as well. So if we come across to this player search tab along the top, you can see every player is here, every player in the game. It's going to take a long time to scroll down. Obviously the best players here, or the most expensive players rather, might be near the top. We start with Lionel Messi, Harry Kane, Benzema. Some of the best players are up here, Courtois. So let's say we want to buy Lionel Messi. These are also the players who might be interested in a transfer to Man City. I can untick that and get every player. So Robert Lewandowski, not interested in a move to Manchester City, maybe because he's recently moved, but we can turn that on. Let's say we want to find a particular player, we can search for them. So we can either do a quick search here. You can search for certain things. You can narrow it down by players who are loan listed, transfer listed, certain positions, etc. Players that you've already scouted. Or we can press the Y button or click here. You get a whole load of options for what you can search for. So let's say we want a new right back. Maybe we decided Kyle Walker is getting a bit on and João Cancelo is no longer doing it. We're going to set the age limit. We're going to pick some attributes for that role. So we can come here. Let's say we want a wing back on support. I'm going to lower this down because you're not going to find anyone with 15s. Press OK, and it's found 43 players with that. So maybe I want to narrow it down a little bit more. 8 players, that's probably pretty good. You can, of course, remove any of these or pick your own. You don't have to go off the ones. Let's say you want someone with, don't know where you want handling. Maybe you want someone with good finishing. You can add that in, for example, or you want them to have particular strength. You can add that in. Anything you like, you can add. You can change their age, you can set a certain role, you can set their transfer status, and set all kinds of little attributes. If you press the X button on Xbox, or if you press the square button on PlayStation, you get even more advanced things that you can add. Everything you could want to add here. Their coaching, you can even search by certain stats, how good they are at their passes. Passes completed per 90 is at least 750. Right, we've got one player, Kostas Tsimikas at Liverpool. They're probably not going to sell to me, although he is interested in a transfer, so he might be worth getting. Although he is a left back, we didn't want a left back, we wanted a right back. So if I just edit that search, select that right back position, knock that down. There we go. There's the 8 players. So Hakimi, Trent, Riddlebaku, Sabali, Pereira, Gilberto. Okay, maybe one of these guys would be quite good. We've got a 23-year-old at the bottom here, Mads Rorslev at Brentford. Looks fairly solid all round. Is he good enough for Man City? Possibly not. But what we can do, if I go back into Mads, see here, I can press Scout Player. It's going to cost a little bit of money, but that's fine. Man City have got that money to spend. It's nothing on Man City's expenses. Maybe if you're a smaller club, don't do this all the time, but he's going to go away and he's going to give us a recommendation for how good Mads Rorslev would be for our team, sort of what Brentford will be expecting in terms of transfers as well. All that stuff we'll get back in the scout report, as long with a little bit of extra information about how good they are and where their weaknesses and strengths are. So we can send a scout off to look at particular players there as well. So that's how you search for particular players, and you can do it by all those little attributes that you want. You want to find a striker, do it by finishing and composure and pace and all those things. You want a defender, make sure you do it by tackling and marking. Sort of have a play around and try and find the kind of players you want. The next tab along is your shortlist. Now, this is all the players that you scout are going to start to appear in here. At the minute, we haven't got any, but they will start to appear, and you can add players to the shortlist at any time. So if I go back to this and let's say I want to add Trent Alexander-Arnold to the shortlist, I can click here on the left-hand side just to select him. Then I can press the start button, options button, whichever button it is for you, the one which is displayed on the right-hand side of the screen. And it's going to give you a couple options. What you can do here, you can do scouting, add to shortlist, and however long you want to add him to that shortlist. There we go. Trent has been added. There are other options in this screen. You can make the transfer offer from here as well, or we can also find similar players. Let's say we want to find similar players to Riddlebaku, we can do that. And it's going to give every player with similar attributes to Riddlebaku. So you can see now Trent is on our shortlist. Transfer negotiations shows all our ongoing transfer negotiations. We haven't got any right now. We do have a transfer clause which we can sell, which is kind of interesting. We'll go on to the next screen to see that. Here we go, clauses. So these are all the ongoing clauses that your club has that are payments of some kind to other teams, or payments that you are getting in from other teams, or payments that you might have to make under certain conditions. So you'll see here, Gabriel Jesus from Arsenal. If we click on that one, you'll see Man City are still owed another 5 million installments. That's pretty good, but there'll be other ones the other way. So for example, Julian Alvarez, if we click on that one, we're still playing River Plate 2.5 million. We can actually pay out, so they'll be due another 650k once he makes 50 appearances. We can just buy that out and it'll say how much River Plate are willing to allow you to buy that out for. So if you look for this little pound symbol, maybe you need a little bit of money. That's a good way of raising a little bit of money for your club. Obviously, some of them will be the other way around, so you can sell the clause as well to clubs that you have sold players to. Next screen is staff search. So if you want to improve your staff, works exactly the same way as the players. Obviously, the staff have different attributes. They are displayed over here. So you've got your coaching attributes, how good they are at coaching. You've got your mental attributes. You've got your knowledge attributes, and the goalkeeping coaching is separate as well. So generally, your scouts and your backroom staff, you want knowledge. Your staff who are on the coaching team, you want good coaching and good mental. I mean, mental sort of applies to all of them, but you know, scouts, ability and potential, you want that. Judging staff ability might be quite good for your director of football, particularly if you're leaving him in charge of it. But you know, motivating is quite good for a staff, and you can pair these up as well. So good at attacking and technical, or attacking and tactical, defending and tactical, defending and technical. Normally fitness coaches are on their own, so they'll have a high fitness. You want someone who's good with discipline and motivating and fitness with that kind of thing as well. Adaptability is pretty good if you've got staff you're bringing in from overseas. So if you're bringing in lots of staff who don't speak the language, might be a good idea to get adaptability. You can also see there's some medical stats as well for physios and for sports scientists and stuff. Obviously, we're looking at a coach here, or our chief scout or something, so obviously he doesn't have good, but we can look otherwise. So these are all the staff. You can start to filter them out and try and find the ones you want in the same way you would search for the players. We're looking for a chief scout. Maybe we want particular attributes. Well, we want the attributes, highlight key attributes for chief scout. 15 is pretty high, so we're going to lower that. Maybe 12. Let's see how many we get, and we can press OK. Actually, there's quite a lot there. All these people are suitable for chief scout. They might not all want it. So for example, someone who's a head of youth development normally might not want to be a chief scout, but of course you can use this to find the staff that you want to put into your team. On the next tab, your director of football, he can handle lots of things for you. So if you've got certain transfer targets, you can add them as transfer targets, and instead of doing the transfer negotiation yourself, he will try to do them for you. I found that the director of football, it normally doesn't succeed at this, but if you're someone like Man City, they can be pretty good. You can also ask him for suggestions. So maybe you want him to suggest midfielder. Who's he going to suggest? Savic, Goretzka, and Toni Kroos. Probably all very good players. Could we afford them? I expect so. Toni Kroos is a little bit on the older side, but he's only going to cost us 27 million. And if you want, you can then go and scout them. I'm just going to add Savic as a transfer target. There we go. And what will happen is he'll move off of that suggestions list onto that transfer target list. If I want it as high priority, I can set it as urgent.
Yes, it is urgent.
And he's going to try and make that transfer. You can give him a little bit more information if you want, if there's a max amount you want to offer. Or let's say I want you to try get Milinkovic-Savic, but I don't want you to spend more than 60 million. You can tell him to do that. And he'll go away and he'll try and buy those players. You can create groups in this as well and all sorts. He'll do all sorts of little bits to take it off your hands. But I'll be honest, making transfers is one of the more fun bits of Football Manager. So generally I like to do that myself. On the next bit is the unwanted list. And this is maybe where he's going to be a bit more helpful. Any players you don't want, you can add them to the unwanted list and he will try and sell them for you. He'll try and get a good price for them. They're generally pretty good, particularly if they're, reserve players you don't really want anymore. This could be a pretty quick way of getting rid of them. He's going to keep going out and asking teams to buy them. You can also offer them out, but this is generally a pretty good way. You can also add players to the development list and he's going to find loans for them and try and get them at good clubs so they develop. This is pretty good for your young players. I'd recommend chucking some of your younger players who you're not planning on playing in the first team into that development list. And that final tab is transfer history. So if you want to see who you've bought and who you've sold this season, you can go here. So you can see Manchester City, of course, bought Haaland, Ortega, and Calvin Phillips, and the players who've gone out, see the totals as well. And there's a lovely little button at the bottom here. Where are they now? Maybe a couple of seasons in, you want to see where those players you've sold, where they've ended up. You can click that and it will give you a little bit of overview of what their career history has been since. Okay, the next section is all about the clubs. So we've got club info, club vision, and finances. We're going to start with club info, and that just gives you a whole lot of info about the club. We saw a lot of this already on the home screen, but you can see just some basic info about the team. You go along one, a bit more information about the team. You see the club legends in here. These are quite important players sometimes. Some of these might occasionally be still at the club, but it looks like all of these are gone for now. Yeah, I can't see any who are still there. But icons as well, you'll find some, certainly icons. There's probably some of them at the club normally. I can't see, and you can see who the rival team as well, in this case, Manchester United. Affiliated clubs are quite useful. You can, of course, look to see which clubs you're affiliated with. Celtic, for example, you have just a mutually beneficial relationship. City should have quite a few because they're in the City group, but they don't. I don't know if they all appear here. We'll have a look down. So we should have Palermo, we should have New York. So if we go down, we're gonna have a look, see if we can find other teams we have. We have New York FC. We have Palermo. Some of these will be quite useful. Financial benefits. It will mean that these teams will also get immediate preference on loaning your players, and you can send your players to them. It's pretty useful, some of these affiliate deals. And if you're a smaller team, you can have it go the other way. So if you're playing as Palermo in Serie B, for example, you can actually loan in the Manchester City players for free. You don't have to pay their wages. So it's quite useful, a two-way relationship between the teams. And the final tab is a load of history and extra information. If you want to look at how you've been getting on, particularly after a few seasons in, you can go along here. You can see how you've got on in different divisions, various landmarks as the save goes on, buying certain players, making players captains, managers they've sacked. You can see here the managers as well, the records for the individual team, and you'll be beating some of these as you go on, hopefully, and the best 11, which of course we haven't got there yet, but that'll appear after the first season. The next thing is the club vision. Now, this is of course your relationship with the board. Very, very important. You do not want to get sacked in Football Manager because that is the end of your run with that team. You can of course go get a new job, but getting sacked is pretty bad in the game, and the thing you primarily want to avoid, other than of course you want to be winning. So the two go hand in hand, I should say. You win more, you're less likely to get sacked. But let's see. So this is your club vision. This is what the team wants you to do. And we looked at this a little bit earlier on, but you can come back and see this anytime. And they will start to judge you on these things. So let's say I get knocked out of the FA Cup. I'm going to get a bad rating there, and that's going to contribute towards my manager performance. But if I win the Champions League, that's going to do very well, because that's one of the primary objectives of Manchester City. If we start playing attacking football, good, they'll want that. Entertaining football, possession football, less important, but again, they want us to do that. And across on the right hand side, you'll see here the manager performance, and it's going to tell us how we are getting on. You can see, how happy the board is over time. It'll be a rating from A to F. And I would say generally once you get down into D to F, you're starting to be in a bit of trouble. D, you're probably okay. E or F, you might be on the verge of getting sacked, depending on what's been going on. You can also come here to make requests to the board. Now, bearing in mind, of course, if you're on a low rating, it might not be the time to make a request to the board, but you can do it here. Make a board request, and you can ask for extra transfer budget. You can also ask for a new contract, maybe when your new contract's nearly up, or you can ask them to build or expand the stadium. Sometimes other options appear, depending on what the current situation is. Of course, if you've just built a new stadium, the building new stadium's going to disappear, or there might be other ones that appear, maybe licenses and things like that. Yeah, go ahead and deal with your board, but bear in mind that they will say no.
But if the board rejects this,
Brilliant proposal. I will cancel my support.
And if you threaten them, they might sack you.
You're fired!
So just a prior warning, don't try to threaten the board with walking out over something minor, because they might take you up on that offer. So if we go along, we can see the members of the board. Not much help here, but of course, if you want to see Sheikh Mansour, you can't actually do anything with him. And the chairperson, Al Mubarak, you can just see who the board members are, just a little bit of extra information. Finally, performance, and of course, I already showed you this first page, which is just that confidence summary in a bit more depth, but you can look at it in particular areas. So let's say the club vision, you can look down there. We already saw that on the summary page, but match performance, they'll look at how you've been performing in recent matches. The transfers you've made, they'll judge you on that. Also, the fans will judge you on that. The tactics as well, how the tactics are going, and the squad as well. You know, how happy the board are with how the management of the dressing room is going. Are the players happy, unhappy? Are they gelling well? Have you got lots of players who aren't really getting on with each other? That's the sort of thing you ought to be looking out for here. Final club section is the finances, which we will look at here. And again, you got to keep an eye on this, but not that often. You know, maybe you're going to come to this screen every couple of months, maybe a bit more if you're in a bit of trouble, but you want to keep an eye on the money. Of course, Manchester City are loaded, so our overall balance is no problem at all. But if you're another club who might be struggling financially, it could start to impact your transfer money, your wage money, etc. You're going to start ending up in a real big spiral and debt spiral, and you're going to probably face point deduction eventually, or FFP regulations. All sorts of bad things can happen. So you're going to get a summary here.
We're completely bankrupt. Don't tell anybody.
You can do those same requests that we saw on the other screen, so the budget adjustment and the board requests for extra transfer money. You can make both of those here. You just get some more information about income on the next tab, so you can see where the money is coming in from, where the money is going out, what debts and loans you have. So actually there is about 64 million of debt at Manchester City, and the money you're making from sponsorships. Just keep an eye on how your money is going. You're not managing the money at the club, really. You know, that's not your responsibility as a football manager. That is more a responsibility of the club. You can ask for more money to spend on transfers, and the board can give it to you. And if things start to go south, maybe that's their fault, but it could have an impact on your own job, and they sort of want you to keep wages and transfers in check a little bit. You don't want to be responsible for relegating the club looking at you, Harry Redknapp.
I've got to be honest with you, there's an awful lot of players at this club who earn far too much money for what they are. And
the final section on this left screen is the Dev Center, and this is where your youngsters come through. So you're going to see here, it's a little bit like the other screens where you can look at your squad. You can see the players that you've sent out on loan. You can see the reserve team as well. And again, you can set everything to do with the reserve team. You can sort it out if you want to do it yourself, or you leave it to the director of football. You can set out their training as well, or you can leave it to the assistant manager, and you can see what fixtures they have. You know, if you want to get involved in the reserve team, by all means you can. It's a lot of extra work, but you can have a look. You can send players, of course, to the reserve team. So Scott Carson is here right now, for example, just to get his fitness up and keep playing. But we've got all these other players. Actually, most of these are out on loan right now, but if we wanted, we could send them up to the first team. In fact, what we will do, we'll take Rico Lewis. We can press that options button on him, and we can say squad, and I want to move him to the senior squad. So now he's gone from the reserve team, actually still showing as unavailable. But if I go back to the first team, he will be there. And the final screen is youth candidates. That doesn't come in until about January, but that's going to be all the youngsters that come into your team. And you're going to start to get a whole load of fresh players. They're called new gens. If you're ever not sure, you want to be looking for new gens, and hopefully at a club like Manchester City, they're pretty good. They're going to take a few seasons to develop. You're not going to get a prime Ronaldo pop out of the academy, but you might get a player who could be a prime Ronaldo pop out of the academy. So keep an eye on that, especially a couple of seasons in. Have a look at what players coming through. You'll start to see if you've got good ones coming in. If they're looking like they're promising, start to give them some matches, maybe some cup matches coming on off the bench, anything like that to get them going. Schedule and competitions are going to help you with what you've got coming up and what you are taking part in. So if you look in your schedule, it's fairly self-explanatory. It'll show you the matches that your team has coming up. Now, you will notice at the top of the screen, if you press Y or triangle, you can arrange a friendly. It's going to come up with a list of dates. You can arrange a friendly on one of those dates. Come across to the right hand side here, and you can choose who you want to play against. Maybe you want to play against a smaller team before the season, but Everton is a smaller team. We can confirm that. It'll send a message off to Everton, and Everton will either confirm or reject that friendly. You can see it at the minute, it's just a proposal, but if they agree, it will appear there, and it can be a good way to get some matches in before the season or even during the season. On the competition screen, you will see all the competitions your team is involved in. So you can see, of course, for Manchester City, we have 5 competitions. We have the Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, Community Shield, and the Carabao Cup. It includes the board expectation there, just so you don't forget. And then you can also see what matches are currently being played in that tournament and how important they are as well. So the Carabao Cup, of course, is not important to the Manchester City team, but they would quite like us to win the Champions League, the FA Cup, the Premier League. The Community Shield isn't important either, so you can see where we currently are. Of course, they haven't started yet, so there's not much details, but if we click Premier League, it'll take you into a whole load of information about the Premier League. So there's the current league table. You can get some extra information. Title odds, of course, Manchester City are the favourites there. The Media Dream 11, you'll start to get the players who are doing well as you go through the season. If you ever need to see the rules, those are also there. So you can just see how many players, for example, you can play, the points for the win, etc. So everything is here. For example, you see the disciplinary rules, the finance, the trialist rules, the registration rules, everything you might want to know about the league. Now, obviously, most of us probably know the Premier League, but if you're playing in a quite obscure division or even some of the popular divisions, it can get quite confusing. So I'd recommend always have a little look at these rules. You know, obviously Brexit is quite an important one in this year's game for the UK, and that can really mess with your plans if you're signing lots of players from the EU. The different stages, of course, with the Premier League, there's only the one stage, but maybe you're in the Championship, you'll have the playoffs, or other tournaments have different stages where it breaks up and the leagues change. So you can always have a look at those stages here. Past positions, you can see once this starts to populate the positions over the season. News is just another way to see the news, but for that particular division. The matches will highlight the matches that are coming up and have already been. You can also see what has already been in results. You can go back when some have been played. Then you can get a whole load of stats on the players, the teams, and the history of the competition. A whole load of things such as the highest attendance, lowest attendance, most goals scored, most games without winning, most games won, etc. And you can try and beat some of these records as well. So that just about covers everything off that main screen. There are a few other things to pay attention to. So on a lot of those screens, you can press the actions button and it's going to give you an option. So for example, if I go to the squads and I hover over Edison, for example, and I press that, that's going to give me a whole load of options for him. So I can move what squad he's in. I can offer him to clubs out for transfer. I can deal with his contract, or I can go into the miss section where I can compare him or find similar players to him in the thing. And we can also set the director of football to offer him a new contract if we want. Now we can probably want to check how long his contract is before we do something like that. But that gives you some extra options on the players. So with all that in mind, maybe we want to do two things. First, we'll have a look at how to do a transfer. I've got a more in-depth video of this on the channel, which will come up after this video. So if you want to do that, stick around. And so with that in mind, let's go have a look and make a transfer. Who would we like to buy for Manchester City? Good question. So we're going to come across to this recruitment section. Maybe we want to buy, I'll tell you what, we're going to go for Victor Osimhen because we know Victor Osimhen is a good target. So we're going to come to Victor Osimhen right here. And we can see all the details here. We reckon Parthenope, it's Napoli, probably want about 80 million for Victor Osimhen. So we're going to come down to the bottom and you can see we've got 3 options: add to the shortlist, add as a transfer target, or make an offer. So shortlist, you can come back to him later. Transfer target obviously gets the director of football to try and buy him. Make an offer is us, we do it ourselves. You can also see here some other clubs are after him, a lot of Premier League rivals. So maybe we want to get in before them. So we're going to make an offer. We're going to press the Y or triangle button to make the offer for him. And here's where we set the details of the kind of bid we want. Now I'm going to leave this fairly simple for now, but you can add all kinds of different fees and clauses. Make sure you watch the other video that comes up after this one if you want to see more details on all those different clauses and what they mean. But for now, we're just going to suggest these terms. Now I expect Napoli to come back to us and ask for something more. Okay, it's not enough. They want an offer. So actually I'm going to improve it a little bit. We're going to up it. Oh, he has a minimum release. Right, this is interesting. You see that little green triangle that's just appeared with the exclamation mark? That means he's got a minimum fee release clause. You can see across on the right hand side, it is actually written down here. He has a minimum fee release clause of 86 million. So by meeting that, they can't refuse my offer. So I'll be straight into the contract negotiations with Victor on first name terms now, it seems. We'll go into a negotiation with Osimhen and hopefully we'll be on first name terms with him after this. So we're going to submit the offer. If he's interested, he's going to come back to us and we have an option of buying him. There we go. The offer has been accepted because, of course, Napoli couldn't refuse it. And it seems like Osimhen is willing to talk to us. Come on, Victor, you can talk to us. If I want to, again, I can hand that across to the director of football, but I might just do the negotiation myself just to show you. So we're going to press the Y or triangle button and it brings us into the negotiations. A squad player, probably, because we got Haaland in the team. But these are the, let's say, promises that we make to the player before we go into the actual negotiation over their wage. So I'm going to finalize those promises, probably the ones that his agent is come to me with. You can see the agent at the top left and his patience. And this is the offer that we can make. This is what Jimmy Romero, Victor Osimhen's agent, wants us to offer him. We're going to offer a little bit less, you know, never offer what they're asking for, but bear in mind you could end up annoying them. Now, of course, that agent fee is too high. Yearly wage rise is okay with that, so we're going to offer, that's a lot of money, 215k, but we're going to suggest it. Okay, he's come back to me, so this is a little negotiation that we got now. I'm going to remove the yearly wage rise because I can't actually include it. Suggest it. He seems insistent on it. Right, we might have to sweeten this deal with something else, so maybe we just up the appearance fee a little bit to 88k. Okay, we've got to a deal. We can press the Y or triangle button to finalize it. Perfect. Now, fingers crossed, we're just going to leave the talks with the square or the X on the Xbox button. Fingers crossed. Oh, there's that friendly, by the way, we made with Everton alone. Fingers crossed, Osman deal goes through. There are reasons it might still not go through. Maybe I don't have the money. Maybe he fails a medical. Other things could happen. He might choose to go to a different club as well. Other things might happen before we get him. You can see we've got the scout report back from Mads Rorslev as well. I'll just show you this quickly. This has just appeared in the inbox on the right hand side here, and it says he'll be a practical signing. Probably not great. You see he's only 2-star ability, potential 2.5. Interested in a transfer, he might not be good enough for our team, so probably we will leave Mads Rorslev and go look at one of those other right backs that we were looking at. The director of football made that offer for Savic that we were looking at earlier on. One of the other things you'll have to deal with in the game is the media. Of course, the media have just called us up. BBC Radio Live's Paul Hamilton's called with a question like to ask us. I can decline him if I really want, or we can try and respond to his question, and we can just answer whatever we like, whatever we think it is. And say, I'm here for the challenge. So simple stuff, you know. Press conferences can get a bit tiring in the game. Don't feel like you have to do all of them. Right, we're going to leave this one to the director of football, so we'll leave it to Tashiki. I don't know how you say his name. He wasn't able to agree the terms, so now it comes to me. So maybe we negotiate. Regular startup, that's fine. Negotiate the contract. He wants way too much money, more than we can afford him. 180. Right. So what I can do, see this little lock? I can lock it. And that means he can't offer more than that. He can refuse the offer, but he can't make it go any higher. So that's our absolute max. Done. Right, we've made a deal with Savic. Now, I doubt we can buy Savic and Osman, but we'll see. Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne have gone and got themselves injured, so it's probably pretty useful with buying a new player. They're only out for a few days, so it'll tell you how long they're out for. Now, we've got to wait for a work permit from Linkovic Savic. Now, you might notice a few times down in the bottom corner here, there are apply something. Now, these are microtransactions. Most of them are actually unlockable in the game. You just have to complete some certain achievement or something. So you can see here how much they cost in money, but you might want to just unlock them. There are one or two that you can't just get by unlocking, which are the bank balance ones, and I believe the removing all the restrictions ones, although some of the restrictions are lifted by some of these, but generally you can just unlock these, and most of them aren't too hard. Designer's Son takes a little bit longer, but the other ones aren't too long. So the no sacking, board override, any of these things, but they're sort of like little cheat codes that you can unlock in the game. You can purchase. I quite like that you can choose to unlock them still if you want. I don't really like the fact that they're microtransactions, but okay. So Savic has been granted a work permit, and we have signed him. Actually, the director of football confirmed it on my behalf because, of course, we asked him to make the signing. So he's now come in to the club. So we can have a look at him if we want. We get some details on him if we want. We can put him in a certain squad. If we didn't want him in the main squad for some reason, we can move him to an affiliate there, of course. Let's say I want to send him to Palermo. We can. I don't think I would do that. And we can check out his training as well. So Savic has come in. Of course, I'm just progressing forward with the R2 button. Victor Osman also now has a delay. You can see the sort of impact things have. So Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, signing him has boosted shirt sales. We haven't actually got a number yet, so we might have to give him a number. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. The radio has come to ask me questions again. Okay, this is something else you want. For now, we've also got the win bonuses before the start of the season. Now, something to bear in mind with these, you can set the win bonuses to whatever you like, but they have an impact on your transfer budget. So if I set a lower win bonus, I'm going to get more money into my transfer budget to buy a player. So if I put all of those on low, we'll have enough to buy Osman. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so here we go. So the work permit has been granted, but you can see because I didn't quite have enough money, I'm going to delay the transfer. We need another 7 million. Now, I don't know if I've got enough that I can transfer across, or I might have to sell a player. So we can either delay it a week or we can cancel it. So I think probably we're not looking to sell anyone of this. And we got Haaland. So we might just cancel this one with the square or the X on Xbox button. And we can go ahead and we'll just play with Savic, and we'll use Haaland and Alvarez up top. Hopefully that helps you get the perfect players for your team in FM23. I want you to let me know which of these cards at the start of the video would you be taking in your team.